10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 104. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 104 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. How are you? Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you had a great week and hope you're ready to learn something new today. Before we get into the show, I want to let you know that you can find all the PDFs to every single episode that we've ever done on our Patreon site. That's patreon.com/10-minute jazz lesson. Or you can find a link over at our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, to go over, grab all those PDFs, and show your support for the show. So let's do our weekly shout out to everybody that decided to donate to the podcast this week. Thank you so much to all these folks. Thank you to Richard, Michael, Kozo, Owen, Sabine. Anybody else that I'm forgetting? I think that is it for this week. Thank you to you guys for deciding to jump on board. I know that you're getting plenty out of all those PDFs that are up there. I've gotten a bunch of emails from the new members of the Patreon site, and they're definitely enjoying all the benefits they get from being over there. So just so you know, that money goes towards improving the podcast and keeping brand new stuff coming at you every single week. So if you can find it in your budget, $3 a month, we would really, really appreciate it, and you get all kinds of rewards. So head over to Patreon and check that out. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Today's episode has a really bold title, and I meant it to be that way. We're going to talk about achieving perfect technique on your instrument. Now, I wanted to give you a little disclaimer before we get too far into this. I by no means have perfect technique on my instrument, but what I am noticing is that the more and more that I do this exercise, the better and better my technique gets, moving toward, about as close to perfection as we can get. So this really is, in my mind, the secret to getting amazing technique and finding yourself in a situation where there's really not much that you can't do on your instrument. Now, another disclaimer, this is a really, really difficult process, what I'm about to show you. It is a very extended process. It requires a lot of time, and it also requires you not to cheat in any way at all. You have to take this system and you have to buy in 100% if you want to get the benefits from what I'm about to show you. This is not something that you can do halfway and hope to get half of the benefit out of it. You either have to buy into this system or not. And that's your choice, you know what I mean? It's like, if you want to take your technique to that next level that it can go to for every single person listening right now, then you can buy into this system, but you have to do so 100%. So this is a system that a teacher showed me when I was a lot younger, and I didn't use it. When they initially gave it to me, I didn't use it because it was too much work. And now that I'm a little bit older, hopefully more mature, both musically and personally, I'm starting to realize that this is the true way to achieve that technique that we've always been looking for. And the nice thing is that this system applies to everything. So whether you're practicing scales, arpeggios, whether you're practicing some 2-5-1 vocabulary, whether you are practicing a really, really hard melody or a really hard transcription, you can use this method for any of those things, and it will work its magic, again, if you really stick to it. So let's talk about the system. So the system is basically this. The first thing that we need to do is get out a piece of paper, and we need to write all the numbers from 50 to 200 going in increments of 2. So at the bottom of your sheet, you would have 50, then you would have 52 right above that, 54, 56, 58, 60 by 2, all the way up to 200. That's the first thing that you need, because that is going to be, that is the system that we're going to use, okay? Now, the second thing that you need is something that you're working on. So the thing that I'm using for an example this week and is on your PDF sheet along with the instructions on how to complete this system is a B7 flat 9 scale. So that's our diminished dominant scale. That's our symmetrical half whole diminished scale starting on B, right? I've been working on that recently using this system. So that is what I decided to include on the PDF with the episode. But you can literally use this for anything. So say you're transcribing something by Charlie Parker and there's a couple of measures that you can't play up to tempo. Well, you will be able to play it up to tempo if you use this system. All right, so we talked about you need whatever you're working on, and then you also need all those numbers written on there, okay? Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to start the metronome at 50. And what I'm doing is I'm playing this scale in eighth notes, all right? So I'm playing this B7 flat 9 scale in eighth notes starting at 50 on the metronome. Now, here's what you do. You start by playing the scale at 50. And the rule is you cannot move on from the tempo of 50 or whatever tempo that you're working on until you have played the scale or the passage or whatever you're working on 5 times in a row perfectly. Now, when I say perfectly, I actually mean perfectly. Any kind of stumble, any kind of mistake, any kind of interference with the sound. Let's say you get to the middle of the scale and you flub a note. You got to go back and you got to start over again. And not only do you have to start that repetition over again, but let's say you are on the 5th repetition of the scale at 50. You've played 4 perfectly previous to this. You're on the 5th one, you mess it up. Guess what you've got to do? You got to go back and start over again on the 1st repetition. So the whole kind of linchpin of this system is playing it 5 times in a row perfectly. And this requires a lot of self-discipline because you are going to do that. When you get to that 5th time, you're going to make a mistake. Now the question is, are you going to actually stick to the system and go back to that 1st repetition again? Or are you going to kind of lie to yourself and say, oh, you know what, it was fine. It was just one little mistake. I'm just going to continue and go on to the next metronome marking. You've got to be really, really hard on yourself when you're using this system, and that's really the key to it. So imagine how many times you are going to have to play this scale in order to get it from metronome marking 50 to metronome marking 200, where you have to play it 5 times perfectly at every single tempo in increments of 2 between 50 and 200. That's a lot. You're going to end up playing this scale thousands of times, and that's really the point. Okay? I really truly think that's the difference between somebody who reaches a certain level and can't get past it and somebody who can get on to the next level, is how much pain they're willing to put themselves through in order to get it to be absolutely perfect. I truly think that that's the difference. Okay. Now, the other thing that's really, really great about this system is that when you're doing the scale at 50, let's say like 50 through 70, it's going to take you forever to get through those 5 repetitions and then get through all those tempos from 50 to 70. But that's the beauty of this, is that you're spending the majority of your time playing it the slowest. And that's what's really going to build that technique. And that's what's going to really turn whatever you're playing from something that you have to think about a lot, something where if you're not mentally 100% on top of your game, you're going to end up messing it up, and something that is truly like in your muscles. So like truly muscle memory. Once you reach 200 on one of these scales, you will not help but be able to play it without thinking about anything, because that now you're achieving that true muscle memory, that true feel for what you're playing, And this is really, really going to open everything up for you. I can promise you that. I could say 100% without any doubt in my mind that this is truly going to open up your playing more than anything that I can even think of that I've shown you in recent memory. So take some of the licks that we've talked about in previous episodes. Do that. Use this system for that. I use it for vocabulary all the time. If I'm transcribing somebody's solo that's just like impossibly hard, I use this system. And at the end of the day, if I'm true to myself and I really actually use the system 5 times in a row, no mistakes, 50 all the way to 200, it's perfect. There's just no way around it. Unless you're like really asleep while you're doing this, there's no way around getting it to sound perfect. And that's kind of a beautiful thing. So if you just follow the system, it will be amazing. All right. So check out the PDF. I do have it written there. I have all the instructions that I've just told you about also on that PDF. So it's something that you can kind of keep in your practice folder. And it has everything you need to know that will take you very, very far when it comes to technique. All right. Shoot me any questions. Let me know. Do you do anything that's similar to this? Have you ever used this actual system before? I know that this is something that is out there and that a lot of teachers are actually teaching this system. I don't know who it originally came from, but all I know is that I had a teacher show it to me. I show it to my students. Now I'm showing it to you guys. So let me know if you're already doing something like this or if you start to use it and you really see some fantastic results. Grab the PDF from the Patreon site, and thank you everybody so much for being part of that Patreon community. I hope you're getting a lot out of it. All right. So shoot me an email, 10minutejazzlesson@gmail.com. If you've got 2 seconds in your life and you can go on to iTunes and toss us a rating and review, that really, really helps us, and we appreciate that a lot. All right, everybody, we will see you on Monday with Motivation Monday. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.